There we go. What's up, guys? It's Wick with a very, very special guest tonight. Trying to bring on and have a little chat with the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, King Singh.
Hey, yo, what's going on, guys?
Dude, first I want to thank you for coming on and agreeing to chat with us for a little bit. I'm super stoked. I will say, first of all I hear right now from people are they miss you. Everybody misses you, man.
Oh man. No, that's
Um,
sweet.
everybody, well, like I said. Oh, and by the way, one of the things I've noticed very starkly about you as a surgeon, my native language is cursing. I don't think I've actually heard you curse.
Oh, dude. I'm as Jersey as can be. In the
You're
right
such a
environment.
gentleman.
In the right
You're,
environment, bro. But yeah,
you're
no,
like the
you're right.
sweetest guy. We meet in person. I'm like mother effing out the word out the left and right. You're like this. I'm just gonna tell everybody the most sweetest, soft spoken guy. It
Oh man.
belies how like great you are and how great of a competitor you've been in this game. I mean, it's just funny, man. So let me ask you something. How does it feel being out of the Evony curse, where like every Wednesday and Saturday is like marked on your calendar, and
Yeah.
you're is got to be. How does it feel?
So I'd say mostly positive things. I do miss the game, to be honest, quite a bit. I miss like the mechanics. I miss a lot of what you talk about, to be honest. This type of stuff is interesting to me. So I miss that, like the actual game itself, and more than anything, I miss the team and community and everything.
Yeah,
Uh, so it would, I do miss that experience, and it's fun being part of a group and a team, and like socially when are just bored at work or something, you can just check Discord in your chat and just kind of, catch up on things and just talk about the game or something, and it was a really nice way. So I do miss that. Um, but yeah, no, honestly, like the biggest change that's happened is like the amount of time I have like mentally, like mental space. Like there's a lot less time thinking about the game. Like pretty much no time to be honest these days. And
it's
I
crazy, isn't it?
dude,
It's
it's
fucking
nuts.
nuts
It's
how
nuts, man.
much this game gets in your head. It's
Oh yeah.
wild to me.
Big time, dude. Because it's actually really interesting game. It's a really interesting game. And if you think about it for a while, like there's so many ideas you can have, like so many things to try, and so many goals. Like that's the other thing is, all right, this is next. Like I gotta get this, like I need this much RSS, and like this is I want to get these layers to here. And how do I do that? And so there's a lot of work that goes into it. And uh, and I used to manage like a ton of alts, bro. Like the alt army I had. Oh God.
Oh God, it's brutal, right? Although I'll
Yeah.
say, I was talking to first of all, I should give a shout out to Dubs because without Dubs, I probably would have never joined RSP.
He's the man. Yeah,
Dude,
he's the
he is
man.
such a great guy. Dubs, if you're out there watching or listening to this, we love you, man. Like I got to tell you, I met him through Server War.
Okay, I
And
see.
I was like 5 months into the game. I'd spending money. I have no idea what I'm doing. And anytime I'd meet another big from another server, I'd like try to exchange ideas with them. And I'm
Right.
sitting with them. And the first time I started talking to Dubs after, it's funny. It's like the guy thing, right? You fight, and then after you're done fighting, you're like best friends.
Yeah, of
And
course. Yeah.
and while we were fighting against each other, we're like pitted against each other and hate each other. And next thing you know, you're like chatting about the game. I remember just going in and talking with him. I'm like, dude, I don't think anybody actually calculates their debuffs. And I've been doing like a calculator kind of drawing out my entire debuffs, and it doesn't make sense that I've got so much siege debuff. And I'm like, have you ever done it? And I'm like talking to him, and he's like, dude, you got to come to RSP. That's what we do down there.
Hmm.
And he's the one who kind of made the intro and got me down there. And I got to tell you, being in RSP was like, dude, that was like going from like little league baseball to like the fucking majors in like
Dude,
a day.
dude, yeah. It's definitely like peak for sure.
Yeah.
That's like where you're gonna find a lot of people, like those types of alliances, I'll say. You're gonna find people who are most interested in the game. And I remember like when I was talking to Dubs about you, you were mentioning a lot of stuff about like mechanics generally. And actually I remember specifically you're talking about debuffs and everything.
Yeah.
And Dubs was like, bro, we gotta get this guy. Like he's like into it. Like he knows, like he's going deep into the numbers and everything. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And yeah,
It
I
was
mean,
great. I appreciate you
yeah.
letting me in, man.
Oh,
I got
dude,
to
for
tell
sure.
you, I loved about what RSP did is after every battlefield, mostly Saturday night, we'd always did slot 9, it'd be 11, 12 o'clock. We would hang out, stay on the chat or the voice
Yeah.
call for like an hour or two, talk mechanics, but also like laughing and joshing around. I mean, I remember,
Hmm.
I don't know who it was, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty stoned. But I would be telling him about the things I took out of people's asses that week, and he was just like, "You remember?" He was like, "I never heard anybody laugh that hard on a fucking phone call, man." I
Yeah,
was
it
like,
was GT,
"It's like,
bro.
I
It
guess it is
was.
kind of funny, man." Like, yeah, but
I
so all of
remember.
a sudden, people like knew me as the ass guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that I'm Greek, right? That I got a fucking reputation as the ass guy. But it was, but yeah, I get that sense of community, and it's also during the lockdowns, right? Like we
Oh
didn't have a
yeah,
way to like socialize. There wasn't a bar down the street where you go and hang out with your buddies,
big time.
so it
Yeah.
was like what all we had really. So I gotta tell, I agree, it was great back then. And that is a part that draws me in, but I agree with you 100,000%. This game's like a goddamn earwig, man. I'll just be, I swear to God, and don't, God, I hope nobody's like listening to this. But I'll be like in surgery and bored, you know, and I'll be like, oh shit, I'm gonna admit to this. I actually came up with something during surgery, right? If you do
No
like,
way.
if you're doing like a fucking hernia for like the 9th time in a day, it gets boring, you know?
Yeah, I
So,
believe
and I
that.
came up with
Yeah.
something during surgery, and I actually asked the nurse for a fucking marking pen,
No
and I
way.
actually wrote it on a thing that I actually take for myself, so that I didn't forget it
Oh,
whenever I was done.
oh
And I'm
my
like sitting
God,
there
dude.
like, holy fuck, dude! Like this game, and one of the things I loved one time we were chatting, and it was just me and you, and I remember turning to you and saying like, you do understand like how wild this game is that you have guys who are like titans of industry. Cephalon's a fucking lawyer over in C4. He's another one
Hmm.
of the really good dudes over on C4. Dubs is like the chief technical officer for a monster hospital system flying all over the country.
Hmm.
I'm a surgeon. And we're all looking up to you, who's like half our age, to be like,
Yeah.
dude, teach us about this game. Let's talk about mechanics. Let's teach us how to be better at this game. And I thought that was one of the things I actually loved about this game is that people, it doesn't like outside of the video game, people have these lives that
Hmm.
bring you in all these crazy places, and then everybody like these from all over these different walks of life come together here,
Yep.
and we have a singular purpose, we have a common goal. And nowadays, as crazy as the country's getting,
Hmm.
I think it's really important to have something that people find that we can come together on. I mean,
Oh,
most important, I think
absolutely.
we can all agree that Evony, the company, and Top Games are pretty awful to their customers. I think
Hmm.
that's one thing we can all unite on.
Agreed, agreed as a baseline. But dude,
Right?
100% agreed though, man. Like I feel like I don't know if it's just I kind of want to say guys specifically and everything. I'm not trying to leave out the girls, but I feel like guys who are like kind of always doing something, like they need to be occupied in some way. Like they need to sink their teeth into something. And it's hard to have an idle mind, nowadays and there's always, everyone has hobbies, but Ebony is just one of those things where if you just kind of let your mind drift into it, it gets really interesting really quick.
It
And
does. It
it's
still does.
and there's also like this sort of almost like a sports team type environment in a weird way where you're on a team, you have your people, your collective, and you have like camaraderie with other teams and other people that also are, have common interests as you, and it's like you can chat to them about the game, and it's got that sports aspect to it, sports team aspect to it, which is really appealing to be honest, because everyone wants to be a part of something. Like even if you're from a small alliance, most people are proud from being, the alliance that they're from. Um, so yeah.
100% agree with you 1,000,000% on that. It's funny, like it's a sports team. Like even like when we got knocked out of Shalons
Hmm.
this year, like we didn't do that. This season we didn't do very good at this season because we lost a big player, and everybody's now using reigning generals, so all of our rallies went to shit, so we had to change up our
Oh
strategy
man.
too late. But what even like after somebody beats you, people are like, and even when we were beating people are like, go get them, we're rooting for you. That was awesome. Like that kind of like sportsmanship's good.
Yep. Yep.
I do find that different continents have different ethoses. Like I guess maybe the older guys are a little more jaded. You
Hmm.
know, I tell people it's
Yeah.
like that meme with like Tom Hanks on
Hmm.
like on Castaway, where it's like
Yep.
C1 is like him after he's been there for like 2 years, where he's like starved and like not shaven and like and like C5 and C6 like, hey, what's up? Like getting on the fucking
Yeah.
plane, right? You're like, and he's all chubby and like happy, and you're like, you have no idea what you're in for. The grind. You don't know. You don't know. You're gonna have to deal with pedophiles on World Chat. You're gonna
Oh
have to
my
deal with
God.
fucking people threatening to beat you up. You're gonna have to people breaking, peace agreements. It's gonna be fucking insane. But it's consuming. I mean, it's so
Oh yeah.
consuming,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Even when you're off the game, it's in your head.
Definitely.
Well, for some people, some more than others, right? I know some guys who can dump tons of money in this game, which is crazy to me that people are dumping as much as a Ferrari in this game
Yeah.
and don't understand it. Like, I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
did he just send a fucking ground march at a 7 billion keep? Like, what is he thinking?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's funny to me, like, to see that. One of the reasons I wanted to get into, it's funny because I didn't want to be a YouTuber. I have too much kind of high profile stuff. You know me in real
Oh
life. Like,
yeah, dude, you're
I'm
a
not
big.
really, yeah, I'm not
I
supposed
I
to be a
know I know
YouTuber.
you're not doing this for like the money. I know there's a
No.
passion thing for you, 100%. So.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is I didn't want to do it, but I got so frustrated seeing people like
Mm-hmm.
piss money away
Yep.
and
Yep.
doing stupid shit,
Mm-hmm.
and and I myself probably pissed away tens of thousands of dollars not knowing what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
instead of spending it on stuff that would be sticking with the keep.
Right. Right.
Sticking, instead of spending on buffs, I was like not doing any research, and I'd go into SVS, get my ass handed to me, and spend a couple $100 researching every week. It
Yep.
was
Yep.
crazy,
Yep. Big time.
crazy stuff.
No,
But it's one of those things that I do think, for better or worse, you're right, 100,000%. There are these such nuanced things about the game. Like, so I just did a layering video. Sure, I don't know if you saw it yet, but um, the I just put it out like this morning. But I did a layering video where I did a chart, and I'd like simplify the chart, as to just your filler layers, and like people aren't realizing the nuance to layers that I have found make the hugest difference. Was it shouldn't be 1,000 every layer, right?
mm,
It's like for your archer march, you want a fat mount march and a
mm,
little bit of siege as well to kind of take advantage of the distance.
mm.
But ground doesn't help as much, right?
Yep.
Because it's really crazy. Like I was just saying, like it's just so bizarre to me, like that it's not just one layer you can tweak; it's all three layers. And I feel like the game or the developers try to give you hints
Mm-hmm.
on what you should be doing. Like when they released Karis, who's
Okay.
like this general who's like everything's buffed 10%.
Right.
He's like the herald of the main generals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why would they release him unless there's an actual function to have, like thick layers of all troops? And I've kind of been on that hunt for it. And that's where I kind of tripped into this layering stuff.
Well, so on that note, I think previously most like buffs really came from just the gear and the equipment like back in the day, but now I feel like a lot of buffs are coming from like blazons and tech is getting really far with K45 tech and everything, so that everything is generally pretty high if you have a well-built account. So the actual refines on the equipment will be like, 200% max, or I think as well 120% max,
Mm,
per piece. So mixed marches does seem a lot more viable because you're gonna be buffing. You can easily buff a lot of different things. So
yeah.
it's a good point.
I've
Um,
I've been playing with it. I've found some success. I'm not quite there yet. It's not ready for prime time, but we'll talk about that offline, I think.
yeah, for sure.
That's something when I'd want to, like, it's funny because I'm figuring out like the routine. I develop something, I use it for a couple months, then I'll make this video on it, as opposed to just giving it to everybody and then fucking my team, and then
Oh
they
no,
want
no,
to
no.
kill
I
me.
get it, dude. I get it. Back in the day, it was the same thing. Like when we were figuring stuff out, everyone would just say like, "Hey, don't tell anyone, don't tell anyone." But
Would
eventually,
you
it all comes
say
out.
one of the things I thought was incredibly fascinating you taught me, or you told me about when you started playing, was how driven you were to beat the heavy coiners,
Dude,
with
yeah.
knowledge.
Yep, 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 yep. Bro, back in the day, it was more possible. I think it's still possible now, but K35, K40 days when they K40 just came out, players like Bob, North Star were kind of like the really heavy coiners in our continent. And yeah, it was just like a big thing to like outplay the coiners with strategy. That was the best feeling in the world, to be honest. That was very, very satisfying because there's something about that that's I don't know what it is. It's very, very
Oh, hell's
satisfying.
yeah. Sticking it to the guy who thinks he can just buy his way into a championship. I mean, that's
Yeah,
like the most classic villain story in sports you could ever think of, right?
big
Like
time.
the guy
Yeah.
comes in with his money and his fancy thing. I think that's like the whole premise of Rocky Four, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it was.
come
Yeah.
on, right? You've got the guy who's low tech, not doesn't have the means, who can beat with his will and his wits against the
Exactly.
guy who's got, you know, all the money in the world that wasn't made in a great way to begin with. And it's like a great, it makes you want to root for the underdog. That's about as American as an apple pie. I mean, God, who doesn't love that?
For sure, man. For
And
sure. Yeah.
it was beautiful to see it happen. It's been beautiful to watch RSP just dominate whenever you're at the helm. It was fun watching you win All Stars. It was awesome watching you guys just kick ass. It was great to be a part of that for a little bit.
For sure, man.
You know, and I got to ask you, you miss it like a lot. You miss being at the helm or the like. What do you miss about it the most? Besides, you
Um,
said the camaraderie is like, is it the actual like that glory, the championship, or was it like figuring it out and sticking it to the guys who are like the bad guys, like having a nemesis?
I'd say that's a great question, man. I'd say like probably the thing I miss the most is actually like winning all stars or just kind of like proving that point. Like there's a like internally you feel like you're a good player and proving that with like actual successes, whether it's in challenge or and challenge obviously entirely the team. That's not me at all. That's the team, but we're all stars, these types of things. Like it felt good to kind of like build up that track record of accomplishments. So there was a validating feeling in that way. And then not gonna lie, being like Singh in the game was like it definitely wasn't it was nice to my ego, I'll say. Like, it makes you feel pretty good, like being in that position. But what I realized eventually was that I don't want like my sense of success in life to come from, this game and community. Because, at a certain point, you really feel fulfilled in some weird way being that person. And it's not, it doesn't translate into real life really, So that's kind of like the way I stepped away from it. But yeah,
You know,
that
it's
part.
funny you say that because I've really have a theory on that. Is
Uh-huh.
that,
I'm all
you
ears,
know,
dude.
there's like these stages of life they talk about, like where your 20s are like X and 30s are X and 40s are so like 40s is supposed to be where you make the biggest impact on the world around you.
Uh-huh.
You're supposed to hit your peak of professional accomplishment at that age.
Hmm.
And I think, I mean, you're younger than I am. You're in your 30s still, right?
Yeah, it's turned 30.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So like you're still just getting started. And I agree with you 1,000%. You've got a lot of work to do. Like my 30s were like 110-hour work weeks. I wouldn't come
Oh
home for
yeah.
3 days. It was
Uh,
insane. Like I'd operate 2 days straight,
Jesus.
come home and collapse. And I didn't even remember the last three operations I did. That's a whole other conversation. But no, they all did great. Okay, don't
I'm
worry.
sure I believe
Me
you,
on my
dude.
worst day, better than most guys on their best.
If I
Okay.
ever get jammed something on my butt, dude, I know where I'm going.
Well, like I
Oh,
wouldn't imagine I'm going to see you in my ER,
no, no, I won't be there.
unless of course you actually like
No,
got so
no.
pissed at the game one day that you jammed your phone in there. But I could see it happening during All Stars where they froze you and then you wake up all like zeroed. But
Oh, dude.
that's one that's one of those things.
Oh
Um,
man.
but that's look, like you know, the 40s is where you're supposed to do it, and that's why I think I see so many guys in like their mid 40s
Yeah.
who did this game. Like that's what
Mm-hmm.
C4 is so full of.
Yep.
I
Yep.
started playing December 2020, right? That's like
Mm-hmm.
the heat and the heart of the pandemic, right? Like
Yep.
I don't know if you can remember back then. Everybody wants to block it out, but everything's still shut down. Vaccines about to be rolling out.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing sitting there doing nothing at home where I'd normally be operating or getting one of my companies or my other ventures going, and I'm like stuck and frozen. And I
Yep.
think that's where a lot of those guys turned to the game, you know,
Big
like
time.
Neo, right? Like Neo was like that, right?
Oh
Like they
yeah.
turned to the game. And then when the pandemic unfroze, people all of a sudden were like, I got to get back out there
Yeah.
and walked away from the game,
What a good point, dude. That's such a
right?
good point.
I think it has to do with like where we were at the time. Like, I don't think I
Mm-hmm.
would ever, I mean, don't forget, and that's what made me laugh earlier. I didn't bring it up. I wanted to download a fucking puzzle game, man. I didn't think I was gonna be thinking about
Yeah.
fucking mechanics and doing YouTube videos and
You wanted to
this shit. I thought it was
occupy
gonna be puzzles with boulders falling out of the sky, something I
big
could
time.
mindlessly play and waste time while I was waiting for them to turn over the room between my cases.
Oh my
Right? Like
God,
we all
dude.
wanted a puzzle game. I don't think anybody like at and C3 and above like
Yeah.
downloaded this game knowing what it was even was.
No, no, it was Evony's marketing at its finest for
Yeah.
sure.
And right now they've got like a commercial where it's like a shooting game all of a sudden. I'm like, really, guys? That's
Yeah, it's wild. Like
pretty fucking
boulders.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's
Um,
silly.
but yeah, man, I mean, and that's the one thing is if you do come back, I mean, and I know that if you miss the game, if you do come back, you think you'd want to go back down to C1 or 2. You think you'd want to start over on C4, 5, or even 6, where it'd be like, like it'd be like sending Derek Jeter down to like Little League for a little bit, and you'd be able to just dominate without trying for a little while, but it'd give you time to catch up on building a decent
Right.
key.
Well, honestly, I have had thoughts about this. Thoughts about going back to RSP,
Mm-hmm.
and even passive thoughts about like starting fresh, brand new on a new account, and maybe not even like letting people know like who I am and just kind of doing it that
Oh,
way.
that would
And
be baller, bro. Like
it'd
just start over on a new account. Just
yeah,
start
dude.
housing people at like 3 million.
I would build some kind of trap, man. Just start with like some crazy
Oh,
trap.
that'd be great.
You remember the early server in server drama that happens in the beginning when you're fighting over subs and all
Oh
that?
God.
Like that stuff would be a lot of fun. It's very
I got to tell you, it's so bizarre. You talk to people from other servers, and it's like plays out. Like, is the human condition that programmed in that it plays out the same
like,
everywhere?
such a good point, dude. Yeah,
Right?
it's
It's
wild.
so weird. People and it's so funny because there comes this moment on every server
Yeah,
where either people let their egos get a hold of them and they stay forever divided and they never make top 100 in anything,
yeah, yeah.
or the people, or and it's so weird how one or two toxic people will quit and
Hmm.
all of a sudden everybody gets along. It's the weirdest fucking
It's
thing.
so weird, dude. And the way it's set, I don't know. I think the way it's set up is like the that in server rivalry and this sense of like these are my people and like those are the bad guys. It
Yeah.
it plays into Evany's favor big time because that's how people like really get into the game and start spending money. It's because like
So true.
they
You're so right.
care.
Oh God.
They
It's what sucks
monetize
you
it.
in, right?
It really is. It's what sucked me in the first place because I was I downloaded this game because I used to play a different game that was very similar. So I'm like the 1% which kind of knew what this game was,
Yeah.
and previously I had spent like what $20 a week or something, like nothing crazy. And I thought I was gonna do the same thing here, just kill some time during the pandemic and everything. But dude, like after I got into my team and I was like, oh, there's this Vietnamese alliance, I was kicking our butt all the time. I'm like, yo, I can't let my people get smacked around like this. I gotta do something about it. And I tried to
Yeah.
learn more and I started coining more. I made my mistakes too. I met a
Oof.
mentor and like got coined more. And I think that's what happens. That's the story. That's the classic story, I think. Oh, this guy just wiped me. I gotta get him back. Like, oh, that's my
Yeah,
enemy
right.
now. And
What is
like
that?
it's crazy, right? Yeah, it's just human behavior and they monetize it
Yeah.
so well. Just props to them as a business for doing that for themselves, but otherwise, it's
It's like an addiction, dude. I see people
yeah.
that are like, dude, I can't even. I'm like, I ran up. People don't realize how much they're spending because they're in the moment and they're like
Oh man,
emotional. And someone will go blow $1,000,
dude.
healing, growing, whatever, whatever. And all of a sudden, like they get their credit card bill, and I all of a sudden have someone like, dude, I got to stop coining. I can't
Yeah,
coin
there you
anymore.
go.
And
Yo,
it's so bizarre.
you know
Like
what you
you're
gotta
like,
do,
dude,
bro? You gotta make a video like a short, teaching people how to calculate how much they've spent with their VIP level.
oh
Like
my
with
god.
dude, people would like freak out about their spend because it's like
Well, the
it's like
one thing I can say that I'm very lucky
mhm.
is I have my own company.
Yeah, yeah,
And I,
yeah.
I have every expense I could, I put on that credit card for that company.
Hmm.
And it was an Amex, like my malpractice insurance, whatever.
Yeah.
And every year, people don't realize this on Black Friday,
Hmm.
right? So 100,000 points
Yeah.
on an Amex is normally $1,000 gift card for Apple
Uh-huh.
or Google Play Store, right?
Okay.
On Black Friday, it's 70,000.
Oh shit. So you could stock up.
So if I had 800,000 points on Black Friday, I was like, bam.
Stock right
I
up.
was like, it was like $10,000, $12,000. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh my
And
God,
I
that's
just load that
sick.
shit into my Apple,
Yeah.
and it was just like free money. It was like Play-Doh money. It was like Monopoly money.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
VIP 23, but I'd say about a third of my spend, thank God,
Yeah, was coming from that.
is credit card points. And now
Was
they've got Aptoid. That was before Aptoid.
oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
Aptoid, you get a 20% return once you hit a certain spending level, which most bigger players are going to hit very quick.
Do people
So
really I've never actually I've used one service, but do you actually get fully 20% back? Like does it end up being
yeah,
that?
oh yeah,
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, you get 20%. I'm at the 20% spending level with
Oh,
Aptoide
that's
right now.
amazing. That's really
Yeah,
sick,
so I'm
actually.
1,600 for a cake instead of 2,000, right?
That's solid. That adds up
And
over
then if you're
time.
and then on top of that, you throw credit card points onto that, and
Oh
you're
yeah.
like, you can cut that in almost a half.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So it's a huge like you know what? Honestly, a good video to make would probably be smart coining,
Oh, big time, dude. Big time.
right?
Yeah.
Like how do you
Yeah.
coin smart? What do you
Mm-hmm.
do? What are the tips to that? Well, maybe we'll get on that.
So
I'm
like
I'm
on that note, like I feel like Evony can be a pretty compulsive game as well, where it's like you see
oh
a
god.
deal, you just got a big check,
Oh,
like you know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, let's just click, click, click and coin. But you're right, the smart spending video to control the emotions and to make proper decisions about when to you only use double downs if you want to do it that way.
which
Some
is so
people.
true though, because this
Mhm,
is so it's so wild to me. I
mhm.
see people with 20% refines
Yeah.
who will chase a 5% buff for $2,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you what are you doing? Like
Yeah.
a 10% buff for $2,000?
Yep.
Like you spend that on refining your shit, you'd have like another 200%. Like, what are you
Hmm.
doing?
A lot, I think refining wrong is a big thing. People accept like a 22% at first, 23%, and then they
Crazy.
go back and change it when it's really hard to change it. And
Correct.
another guy,
Although a nice little change to the game since you've been gone, you can
uh-huh.
now get a much cheaper refine. They have
What?
like a palace thing, yeah, where you can drop the cost of every refine by 2,000, and every 5 refines you automatically get a gold.
No way. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah. So they have
amazing.
some changes that are. I think they're listening to people,
Yeah.
a little bit, and
Oh,
I
that's
think
kind of
it's
nice.
getting. Yeah, so it's actually a new thing. It just started. I just started using it. I mean, most of my shit's refined. I mean,
Yeah.
to where I'm pretty high, but I have a few that I like Augustus gear, right, that I can use it on. So,
Right. Yeah.
anyway, so here's I want to get started on some questions. I don't want to keep you too long.
Sure.
I wrote down some questions. It wouldn't be a Wick video without me using my analog way of writing or communicating. But let's start off with the first question. If you could have, this is just fun. Some of them are fun, some of them are just expansive. If you
Mhm.
could have, right, unlimited knowledge in this game, in other words, like developer level knowledge, where you had intimate knowledge of the battle process and simulation,
Mhm.
what happened, like you got to look into the black box. Essentially, you knew everything there was to know about this game,
Mhm.
but you had absolutely no coining resource.
Mhm.
Or, and I'll qualify that as yes, but you can bot, right? Let's just say you could bot
Okay.
versus unlimited coining, but absolutely no knowledge of the game.
Oh, dude, knowledge all day,
Really?
dude. Yeah, 100%, bro.
Wouldn't
100.
even come, wouldn't, you're not even going to think about it, huh?
I, 'cause I figured, I thought that's where you're going with the question. I did think about it for a bit. I mean, unlimited coin, oh, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's very appealing because
And
you
again,
could
it's
just
coin for the game. It's
max
not like unlimited money. You can go out and buy a yacht. Obviously, that
for
wouldn't
sure
be
for
it.
the
But
game,
like
yeah.
I'm saying like an
Coining,
unlimited
yeah.
Apple account or something that you could just buy as many pink gems as
Yeah,
you wanted or whatever, right? Like yes,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's
you
very
pick
appealing.
knowledge,
So
huh?
it's like, would I not be like I would just learn slowly, or would I just not learn
You
about the
just
game?
knew
But
everything, but like you could snap your fingers and
and
have
you
an unlimited purchase account or unlimited knowledge. You pick knowledge without even thinking about it, huh?
I really think that's the way because that's the interesting part of the game, man. And that's what you talk to people about, you bond about. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and no coining, I guess no coining would be really rough, but you could build a nice trap, I guess. It's possible with some botting and some alts and everything.
You know what I'm
But
finding? I'm finding that if you know enough mechanics, you can nullify buffs advantages somewhat
to some degree, yeah, definitely,
to
man.
some degree. I think you can mitigate the purchased buff advantage. I think
Yep.
the most dangerous players are the guys who coin and know.
Oh, big
Uh,
time, dude. Yeah.
King Singh being one of them, right? Like that was one of the things that was dangerous about you is you had
Yeah.
both the power and the knowledge. So, what I find interesting is I've seen some players now. I mean, there's a fucking K45
Mhm.
on C5 right now.
Dude, I heard the story, and this guy's the highest power in the game or something. Like,
It's like 119 billion or some shit
oh
like
my
that. I'm like,
God, that's
what? I
ridiculous,
saw his
dude.
keep the other day. We played him in that new weird battlefield, which goes on at 5 a.m. So I don't play it. So my server
Uh-huh.
played against this dude, and he was just like one tapping K40 with his spit, just one tapping him like it was a joke, and I'm like,
Oh
what
my
the
God.
fuck? And
Jeez.
but I don't know how much knowledge he has if he's C5, but I'd be interested to meet the guy.
I'm sure he'd like to learn too. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
true.
he'd be interested in learning. So I'm sure he'd
That
be
almost
in.
makes him too dangerous. So you give that guy like a really thick
Yeah,
funded knowledge, and all of a sudden, like, oops,
dude,
like
that's
he's gonna run
always
the tables.
that's such a like so some alliances and people will run experiments and have ideas and thoughts and learn and like take those mistakes and learn some more. And then they come up with some strategy, like whatever's like T11 or the flats or something. And then it's just a dangerous game, like telling people about it, man. It depends on like how competitive you are. You know, if you're
Yeah,
casual, it's not that bad. But if you're competitive, like spreading that out like everywhere it just
yeah,
kind of that was something I was always very careful about back in the day because I know that if some coiners just without doing any work, without experimenting, without using their brain, they just kind of say, oh, everyone's doing T1 now, let's go max on the flats, and that's what they're doing, let me just copy that real quick, done.
yeah.
So you know
So true. And that's the wild thing is that the dogma, right? The dogma in this game, as what, like I said, the only reason I got into doing the videos was
hmm
because there was so much dogma.
there's a ton, yeah.
And I thought at first, I was like, oh, Discord,
Yep.
C4 chat, that'll be the place to go and have conversations about the game.
Yep.
Like, I'm a fucking moron for thinking that. I mean, and the thing was, and one of the things that I love being an RSP, I love being on a team with you, bro. But the one thing I felt was really frustrating for me is that anytime I came up with an idea,
hmm
I felt like a lot of the older players, even in RSP, didn't like that the new guy had a new idea,
yeah,
and they didn't want to hear from me. Like they were just like, "No, you don't know what you're talking about," and I'm like, "No, but hear me."
hmm
And I found out one of the players, for instance, I was arguing with the guy. He's like, "No, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong," and I find out 2 months later he made all the changes I told him to make.
Oh
You
my
know, and
God.
then like 2 months after I left, he's like, "Oh shit, you were right about that thing." I'm like, "Dude, oh my god!" Like,
Yeah.
there's definitely, and that's why whenever I see players from C5 and
Uh-huh.
6 who like will message me and be like, "Dude, can you tell me a little bit about this thing?" I always want to be super nice to them because I don't want to come off like
Oh, for
those
sure.
guys did. You know,
For
like you're like,
sure.
"No, no, I've been playing longer and
Yep.
then and I know more," and you're like, "No, but everybody's got this dogma in this game where people do things and
Yep.
they don't know why."
Dude, yeah, they don't know why, which is like, yeah, like I think knowing the fundamentals behind it should be almost required to do it. But what I think happens, bro, is like C1, C2 when they first started, they were
Mm-hmm.
just so fresh and full of energy, just like C5 and C6 is now. So they were
Mm-hmm.
experimenting, they were trying things, they found things that worked, and they were sharing and everything. And then as time went on, I feel like people sort of settle into those ideas, and it's I've already, you bring up an idea and they feel like, oh, I already tested that. It's fine, it doesn't work. And they're gonna get
Yeah,
like
but the
very
game changes
the
so
game
much.
changes. Yes, yes,
Dude,
and
as soon as they made some change recently with the K45,
yeah.
and I showed you when we were at that comedy show on the screen of the barracks, like where they actually show the advantage each troop has on the others now.
Yep, 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 which is
As soon
nice.
as that happened, all of my defenses changed. It was
Yeah.
so weird.
hmm
Before that, every time I got a range rally hitting me like 30, 40, 80 million troops, my siege took out 80% of the troops.
hmm
It was overnight. The day they made that change, now my ground kills
Your
everything.
ground's doing it. Wow.
It's weird, right? Like, so something changed. That's got to be an extrinsic trait. I don't know what it did. I don't know if they altered what siege
Is it
targets.
speed or something? I don't
It's got to
know.
be. It's got to be this ground moving up in speed. I can't make heads or tails out of it, but
hmm
I'm still trying to figure it out. But it's just weird to me that like, people don't realize they adjust the game. I think
Yep.
to throw curveballs at people, like when they rearrange the siege ranges
Yeah, yeah.
when they used to be the same. Like that was a game changer, but I don't think nobody was talking about it.
No, dude, that's the thing. The conversations are it is not to be had, and that's something great that you're doing, man, is actually like publicly talking about it. And well, let me share like the last thought and theory I was on before I quit, which I don't know was fully experimented on, but it was calves like killing range. And um essentially if you look at a range rally, any range rally that's done on you, the last tier of cav that survived ends up getting kills. So we learned this from I forgot who it was LWZ and the other dude. I forgot.
Hammer cause, hammer
Yeah.
cause.
So he had 200 million of all his Cavaliers. And at first I'm like, dude, that's OD. Like you don't need that. But when we were ranging him again and again and again, I would see like his tier 7 cav, it would be the last alive, but it killed like 30 million troops, 40 million troops, and we couldn't even get through the tier. And I was just like shocked. Checked out his wall general, all flat cav attack. He had 200 mil cavaliers all the way up, and the calves would counterattack and kill the range. And actually, I didn't understand what was happening until I saw um what's his name's video. Who's the
Derek.
dude? Derek's
Derek
video. Yeah.
Defies.
When I saw his video, the one thing that resonated with me was the counterattacks, and then it kind of clicked. I was like, bro, calves are counterattacking the range because you're flat buffed to hell, and there's so many of them, and they're
Yeah,
literally killing the range, like calves killing range. So that idea fell off because I didn't put enough love and energy into it. I'd fizzled out at that
I
point,
agree
but
with you. No. I think I'm with you. That's so funny
yeah.
that you mentioned that because I've been playing with that.
Okay,
So
nice.
the in my last video I wrote when I did March builds, I
Hmm.
did this diagram of the extrinsics, kind of building out what the battlefield looks like mid battle.
Hmm.
And I think it all boils down to the scrum. And let me
Hmm.
tell you about an experiment I did. So I have the scrum is all the melee troops in the middle with another troop in range, right?
Hmm.
And they stop moving. The one thing we know about the game is when a troop has another troop in range that it's doing damage to, it stops moving on the
Yeah,
battlefield.
stop and fire. Yeah.
So the mount meets the mount in the middle of the battlefield first, and they're stopped. Then the
Hmm.
ground catches up, and then the range sets up somewhere within 500 yards away,
Yeah.
not within range to take hits or counter damage, but enough to do sprinkle that scrum with arrows.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens if your mount
Hmm.
isn't there to stop that scrum?
There's a range keep marching,
No,
or
their mount is going to keep running at your ranged. You get it? In other words, you're
mm,
going to hit it, but nothing's going to be there to stop it in its tracks. It's going to keep coming at your range. So I did two battles, and I did one
oh,
PvP. You ready? So I did a PvP with um hitting a keep
uh-huh.
that had everything. It's like
Okay.
a 2 billion keep,
Okay.
and I did one with I included the mount layers in my ranged army.
Uh-huh.
Then I took out the mount layers
You took out the mount layers from your march.
from my march.
Interesting. Okay.
And I thought, what happens? Does this increase kills because they get closer and within range of my ranged troops faster? Or are
Mm-hmm.
they going to run right over my ranged?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I got I got wiped out when I had no mount layers.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
yes,
Wow.
so your mount stops them in the tracks,
Ah,
which is why all
okay.
my archer PvPs have really thick mount layers.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have 15 thick mount layers, it's going to take them 15 turns to get past it.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So you're getting a lot more hits on range. So I actually went the other way and found the other thing was true too.
Okay. I see.
That was one of the
Damn.
things I didn't share in my video, but now everybody's going to know. But
But
but that was one of the things, right? Exactly that is
uh,
is the extrinsic position of on the field. And now the question is, did they change the ground speed, which Derek contends they did,
okay. I
and
see.
increase ground speed immensely.
If they did,
And
bro, like
yeah,
like
I think that's
picking
but
up ground
which is weird
flats,
though
like
because the march the rally spot still lists the speed of a ground troop at 300, which is
mhm.
really weird because which means they're just misinforming us on purpose.
Yeah.
Um, but I agree with you 1,000% that there is something there with mount that the
Mhm.
mount has to be there, and that's where I translated into affecting my game. See how funny that is? That's so funny. You're
Yeah.
on the same thing of what you're working on, and now I'm trying to mix marches and vary the different tiers. In other words, are you better off with 100,000 T12 and 5,000 T1s because the T1s aren't really going to stand in the way of much?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or are you better off with 50,000 each?
Right. Yeah. Like
Right?
all the way
Because
down. Yep.
correct. And that's why I've been playing with, that's where I'm at with this now. But I have a big number of amount on my range arm.
Interesting. Well, I
Crazy, right?
reckon if you're doing March for March, bro, with your idea of thinking, I could see your idea doing very well. Um,
I'm telling you, dude, like it's been a game changer. And you want to
yeah.
talk about like how funny the layers are. Dude,
Hmm.
I've been sitting in battlefield in towers with mount marches,
Uh-huh.
and I have K40s and 41s just coming at me with range marches with 1,000 layers,
Yeah,
and I'm
and
tanking. I'm tanking.
oh man.
Dude, I'm tanking. I have so many reports. I've got like where I've like my 500 million, I lose 200 million, and they lose 3, 400, 500 million.
Oh
It's
my
great.
God.
It's
Dude.
awesome. I'll show them to you. They're so great.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
That's the
I'm
kind of
like,
stuff I'm talking about. Like you get off on, you're like, yes. And there's that other person's looking at that report, like, what the fuck
yeah,
is
like
that?
what happened? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the shit I get off on. That's the shit like that keeps me coming back.
What would be
Um,
interesting, like, so one thing that was pretty easy to do back in the day is like have a max K40 versus a max K40. And then you
yeah,
can like you're kind of even in that way, but then you can
yeah,
test the actual composition of marches. So having equal, like, not exactly equal, but somewhat equal buffs, and then
yep.
experimenting with different layer counts would be a solid, less variables, in that
Well, I
experiment would be.
started doing that with some of the barb castles because you can
Ah,
find two identical barb castles really easy.
hmm.
But it's so funny. I went on like the mechanics Discord and like people went ape shit on me. They're like, dude, what the fuck? The mechanics on the Arctics don't work. I'm just like, oh, I'm good, dude. Like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
that's the, I never
if
knew.
it's off, it's
Yeah.
fine. But like, for instance, I was talking about using a fully ascended Edward Teach
Uh-huh.
versus a non-ascended Edward Teach,
Okay.
and
Okay.
one had gear and and one didn't as an assist
As
with the
the
same
assistant
general.
general. Okay. All right.
And
What
I
did
got much more kills with the one that had more power because on that screen, whenever you have the assist general, the power is green.
dude, so that's one thing I remember you mentioning this, and I thought about that for a while. That's crazy. If power on assistant general actually matters, then like
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm thinking of doing is just asking customer service and just saying like, what? But the problem is every time I ask them something, it's so bad, dude. Like I literally
dude,
don't know what. Like they're
the,
dumber than potatoes, dude. They don't know. Like,
it's like throwing like a
oh,
basketball full court and hoping it
oh,
goes in, bro. Like
it's so bad, dude. It's so bad. It's so
oh man.
depressing. All right, I mean, I got another good question for you. Ready?
Yeah, let's hear it.
If
Yep.
you could have made before you quit one
Yeah.
change to the game, what would it be?
Um, I think I would make the cap like the highest. So like the value you get from coining has diminishing returns. I would make it so that it's not that coining beyond a reasonable amount would not help you, it would still help you. It would
Yeah,
speed up some things, but things that are like unable to be unlocked until you spend like that $2,000, I would have moved that to a lower tier and given some sort of time skip, quote unquote,
yeah,
advantages to those who coin more. So like more
that would be
RSS,
awesome. But if
gems or
there's
funds.
one thing I know about top games, bro,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
that guy loves his yachts, man. I mean,
dude,
like
I believe it. His Lambos, his
that
yachts.
decision, he'd have to have a 100-foot yacht instead of 200-foot yacht. You
Exactly.
can't expect him to live like that
No, that would be too
in
painful,
poverty like
dude.
that. They can, it would
Well,
suffer so
well, the thing
much.
is, like, if the game does become like that in this genre, right? In
Yeah,
this genre of it's unheard of, really, to like go down that route. But you can definitely attract a lot more players to be like retained and interested in consistently coining. So it's I don't know, but the thing is, like, I feel like they have their strategy figured out to target like a select group of people and have them like kind of have their fun a little bit more, and that's how
yeah,
they seem to be getting the maximum returns, so they're going to do that. But I mean, going for like a wider approach, more people playing the game, like more people that can coin, and a 500 a week or 500 every 2 weeks or something, that can enjoy, I feel like that would have you would have a
medium,
bigger
medium
player base.
corning more
Yeah,
impactful. I agree with you.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like in other words, like get like when you have cake or a quarter cake,
Uh-huh.
you get like a quarter way to buy to getting
Exactly.
supremacy gear as opposed to having to start
Exactly.
over. I'm
Yep.
with you on that. I'm
Yep.
100,000% with you on that. I'll tell you what my answer to that question would be. My
Hmm.
old answer would have been make SVS meaningful because SVS
Yeah,
is like
that's a great
completely
dude.
like somebody should get a cake keep or even supremacy gear or something for
Yeah.
being first on the winning team. Like get something out of it.
Yeah.
Supremacy gear to first, conquest to second. You know,
Hmm.
something for start. It's just once you unlock, like it's completely fucking meaningless.
Dude, the incentive. Yeah, the lack of
Yeah,
incentive for SVS is terrible.
terrible.
Um,
Right now
uh,
they have the Senate where like you can unlock some things, but once you unlock them once,
yeah.
done. You're like, all right, done. Like now what?
Yep.
So what I would now that they have the Senate, I'm like, okay, they made it a little bit better, but that would probably be what my first choice would be. But I don't think they do it because it means money for them. What I
Yeah.
would say right now, what if I could make a change in the game that I think the developers might go for?
Hmm.
I would make it so that all those fucking useless trap speed ups and crafting speed ups that you have of
Yeah.
like 75 years worth,
Yep.
I
Yep.
would make it so you could exchange them for common speed ups.
Dude, that'd be nice. That'd be very,
Even if it
very
was like a
nice.
2-to-1 exchange, right? Like you get a
Yeah.
half hour if you give them a 1 hour for crafting, But
Mm-hmm.
right now I must have like 70 years worth of fucking crafting speedups. Like what the fuck am I gonna do with that? You know? Like it's like feels like such a
Oh,
waste of money. And then I'm fucking hit a pan right now, and I'm like, oh yeah, more crafting speedups. Most fucking
yeah.
worth that shit to have that shit just pile up on you.
Yep.
And you're like,
Yep.
I coin for that? What a fucking waste of money. Like you
It's
should
like
be able to recycle the money
uh,
you spend.
dude, agreed. It's like a filler item they give to you
It
for
is.
free. It's so
It
bad.
is. It's like what is even worth? Um, let's see. Who do you think? Here's the next question. Who do you think um outside of you, right, after you're gone,
Hmm.
where do you think what alliance do you see coming up as the next big league alliance in the game?
Number one alliance.
Yeah. And you can't say RSP.
All
That's like
right, I
too
won't
much
say
like
RSP.
that's too
Yeah.
much like home field.
No,
But like
no,
if
it
you had to
is.
pick
It
another
is.
alliance that you see coming really ascending to the forefront of
Honestly,
completely and totally dominating, who do you see doing that?
so I've been a little bit out of tune recently, but just from what I've been observing from afar, I think VIG is probably like they're up there. I don't know if they're number one. Like I don't know like who their competition is, or maybe RSP is their competition, but I feel like VIG has like a lot of like heavy coiners, and Viper is like a professional recruiter. He's really good at getting more people to buy into his ideas and everything. And I think he's been doing, props to him. He's done a pretty good job recruiting and stuff. So as far
I
as
heard he's selling though. Is he selling?
dude, yeah, I heard the same thing. I don't know what happened with that. I just saw a post. I saw someone like send me a screenshot of it, but I don't know if he's actually, if he
Dude,
is, then
somebody
like
told me he was selling for like he's asking 30K
yeah.
for that keep,
Yeah, that's
which is
wild, man.
wild to me, which is awesome for him if he can get it. God bless him.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I wouldn't want to face him. I don't intend on matching a VHR. What sucks about my alliance, we're big enough
Hmm.
that we're matching C1 every fucking week.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And it's just like when you play C1 alliances, they don't fall for the same shit the C5 and 4 or 3
Right.
even. Like they know they've been
Yeah.
around the block too much that keep switch doesn't work. Like you have to do variations of keep switch, right? Where I'll
Hmm.
send a scout to fake an attack so that they don't think that I can keep switch. Then they'll send the rally. Then I got to. It's so funny, like how like
Yep.
they're so far ahead of the game,
Hmm.
and that experience counts for a lot.
Dude, so what about you? Who do you think? I'm super curious. Like, who do you think is like the number one like alliance in the game?
Alliance. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I will say this. Back when I was in RSP and we were fighting hot and we were fighting all
Hmm.
these guys, it's a whole different game down there
Oh yeah.
because those years of experience do change, what you're doing, right? C4 just kind of tuned into the whole reinforcing game and mapping and the rallying and like and when I first started winning in C4, people weren't rallying; they were soloing, right? I mean,
Hmm.
so I think it's a different type of game. I do still see RSP dominating for
Hmm.
a while. I think that when you get to a certain level, when you get this critical mass of pointers,
Hmm.
doesn't matter if you're innovating or not. You're good. You just there's nothing that innovation can take on
Yep.
somebody with 500 million power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I don't think that's going to happen. But I will
No, no, I
say
get
I've
that.
been out of the loop in RC1 and 2. I've been watching from afar. I've been watching the standings. I always at the end of Austerlitz or Chalons.
Hmm.
I went and looked and saw who won, and I was impressed, to see the same names up there and seeing them keeping up that level of play
Hmm.
this far into it. I know it's not easy.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
not easy. Um, let's see. I asked you this question already. The best part about being out of the game right now, is it the schedule? Is it the being able to focus on your real life?
Yeah, it's a mental space, man. Because the game
Yeah.
really is fun to think about, and yeah, getting your mental space back is pretty cool.
If you were to find the right home, again, that's funny. I asked you this one too. Like, where would you, if you would would you want to start over? Just go anonymously into a C6 alliance and just that people don't know they're in,
Yep.
Singh's team, or would you want to? I'd be honest with you. If you went into a brand new C6 alliance, that you'd probably, someone would be like, dude, you're on King Singh's team. They'd be like, who? Like there's
Yeah,
YouTube
you're
videos on
right.
this stuff. Are
You're
you kidding
right.
me? I thought it was a fucking puzzle game. Like, what is he really good at solving these puzzles? What is this shit? You know?
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Does he know how that ball's gonna wiggle and that little hook in the
I
fucking thing
am
is gonna
actually
make you climb faster? What is this?
I'm pretty good at the puzzles. Just FYI. I've done them enough.
I don't doubt it.
Oh, jeez.
Um, this is one that is gonna get a lot of controversy, but I gotta ask you.
Sure, sure.
The weirdest part to me about being um on YouTube was the randoms messaging you. And I don't mean the random new players asking you about how do I build my keep? You know, look at this report, tell me what to do. And I'm like, no.
Sure.
What was really weird was the odd female sliding into the DMs.
Yeah.
Which I know you must have had a lot of.
I mean, yeah, a couple of males and everything. I'm fairly
Did you find it
respectful.
weird? Like, did that? Like, what is that? What's that phenomenon?
I don't know, man. I think it's just the being that person in the game. Like, you're probably going through it a bit too right now, but
There's some
there's
randoms that are like, can you send me a photo? And I'm
yeah.
like, dude, I'm happily married. I've got 3 kids. My wife's a surgeon. She used to model. I'm not here
Yeah.
about to fuck anything up.
Yeah.
And it's really weird to me that it's been this like
Yeah.
people think you're like looking, and then like people be like, and the funniest thing is like people will be like, I'm from Vancouver. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll be right there.
Yeah, right,
Let's
like...
Netflix and chill. Like, what the fuck?
No, dude.
It's the weirdest thing, right?
I mean it's human behavior, bro. I feel like it's just the game is like my I think who BK calls it Evony Tinder. Like it's actually like Tinder in disguise.
Right? It
Like
happened on our server when we first started. Like this couple found each other, and
yep.
then like they decided that they were gonna quit because they became a couple. So they went and bubble and burn for a week, and it was all weird. But I'm like, damn, dude, like there are
Yep.
actual apps for that,
Oh, dude, for sure.
you
But
know?
like
And
the
I'm like,
thing is about the game is like you like I met my girlfriend through Evony, and now you met her already, so you already know. But
oh yeah, she seems like she is. It really does seem like a sweetheart. She seems like a
she's
rock
very
star,
sweet. She's very, very
and
sweet.
she's into the game too. I mean,
That's
Jesus
the
Christ,
thing.
right?
Yeah, she's playing right now, probably.
That's hot.
Like,
That's awesome, dude.
yeah.
Dude.
So yeah, dude. Like you find people who are like-minded and interested in similar things, and typically that's like a
Yeah.
similar personality and stuff. I think it's not bad, honestly, having the whole that type of culture. But yeah, no, the random messages and
The
everything,
random,
like
right? The
yeah,
random
dude.
ones are like really like make me feel weird. Like I'm like, dude, I'm like a middle-aged, out of shape dad, the guy with a dad bod.
Yeah.
Like what do
But
you like? What do you actually expect out of this?
throw
And you live
doctor in
only three
there.
thousand miles away. It's a little bit weird.
Throw
Um,
doctor in there, and none of that matters. You're good to go.
well, let me tell you. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's something stuck in their ass. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there you go. There you
I'm
go.
very facile around the anus. I can tell you that. I can agree to that. The one creepy. I will share an anecdote. One of the creepiest moments
Mm.
of my career was giving a guy a rectal exam.
Oh Lord.
And usually I don't like people to talk to me when I'm doing it. Like it's like I feel
Sure.
dirty enough. I'm
Sure.
like, dude, if I were working in the city right now,
Yeah.
there are people making like $20,000 to do this. Okay.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
got to do this
Yeah.
for like Medicare rates of like $80. It's terrible. This is like the bottom of my existence. Right. And then like the guy, I'll never forget it. Guy turns to me
Yeah.
while I'm doing it. And he goes, for a guy with hands as big as yours, you're pretty gentle. And I just looked at the dude and I'm like, did you not know? I'm like, no. I couldn't even make eye contact with the guy. I'm like, no talking
Oh
when I'm
my
inside of you.
God, dude.
No.
What I'm inside of you.
Fuck. It's not right. Not right.
There's no eye contact. Just don't
No
look
eye
at
contact.
me.
Don't look at me. I really wanted to be looking at him like, don't look at me. Look away. It's awkward.
Oh God, dude.
Let me
Oh
ask you
man.
this. And I want
Yeah.
to, before I ask you this question,
Sure.
I want to share something I'm going to share it on the screen record. Hold on 1 second.
All right, cool.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
Here.
All right, let's
So
see.
this backstory on this.
Okay.
I was down in West Palm Beach for the Sig Sauer Freedom Days. Anybody who's a 2A, not like I am, and into guns, they have a thing where you pay $500, you get to shoot every gun in the Sig Sauer catalog, and you get a discount on anything they have in stock there.
Nice. Okay.
So I went down for a whole day of shooting, and I was down in West Palm. I couldn't. It was qualifiers for Shalon, so I couldn't make it. So Singh was good and nice enough as he always is to fill for me. And I come back on, and I find these. I look at my mail, and I'm like, oh, he's got mail. And I'm looking at this mail, and it's making me laugh my balls off. And I'll tell you why. And anybody who's reading this, you can pause the screen and read it. It's a back and forth with a guy off the C1 And he's talking shit. He's like, "You're such a bitch move. All you new servers suck. No battlefield cooperating. We'll see all you're gonna get a tick for points." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And you're like, he's complaining about you keep swapping, you know. And you're like, "It's part of the game, bro." And like, I looked at like what you wrote, and I'm like, talk about like the sweetest, kindest, good-hearted, most good-hearted guy I can find. Because
Oh,
this guy's
dude.
like, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." You're like, dude, it's part of the game. We're all good. And then he's like, calls you a bitch, and you're like, dude, you're porting and sitting for an hour. Who's the bitch now? Like, you actually like did give it back a little bit, just the right amount. And
Yeah.
he like laughs, and like, this is the next page, right? This you read it, and then I get to like where you wrote back, he writes, "You can't zero me," and you're like, "No, your defense is too strong." Sweetest guy. So his response,
Yeah.
and then you're like, "Right, anyway, there it is on the bottom of the screen here. Anyway, it's all love, man. We're out of juice, so just teasing you a bit. Happy holidays, bro. I'm sorry if you got off on the wrong foot, dude. You are the kindest, sweetest
Oh,
guy I
dude.
know. Honestly,
Oh,
dude.
man.
That's like I read this, and then then this is where I started really dying laughing. Right? He goes, "Yeah, we're just frustrated. Your guys are Houdini, and he did give you props. Keep
Yeah.
hitting, too long qualification, top points for all my defense is not great." This is where I go nuts. Right? So then your
Yeah.
response, haha, I hear you, brother. I'm actually Singh playing on a friend's account. And he goes, "What the fuck? What's up, motherfucker?" And it's like, it's so funny because it drew me back to, you ever watch that movie Deadpool?
Oh, dude, yeah.
You know that
Yeah.
scene where he's at the end where he's like fighting the bad guy and he has
Mhm.
the sword up to the guy's neck and he goes, "Dan, is that you?" He goes, "Wade, is that you? I haven't seen you since
Yeah.
Panama." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey," all of a sudden they're ready to fucking slash each other's throats, and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, it's you, guy. Hey, what are you doing?" You know? And it just had me this like, you say it's Sing, and all of a sudden the guy's like a fucking pussycat, you
Yeah.
know? So
Dude.
and I came on later and I laughed at the guy. I'm like, dude, I'm like, that'd be dead. That'd be dead.
Oh,
And
bro.
I think that this is part of the answer to the question. My question is, listen, as long as I've ever known you,
Mhm.
outside of the bitch BK being a dick as usual, calling you out for shit that wasn't your fault,
Right, right.
um, you managed to stay out of it. You managed to stay out of most drama.
Mhm.
Coming in, going. How do you do it? Like, what is your secret outside of just being able to disarm people into being a sweetheart? Like, what is? Do you
Oh,
have advice for
man.
people looking to try to kill drama on their server? Like, what is that?
Just try not to take anything personally. I feel like people get emotional when you see emotion. Like normally there's no logic behind it, or there's lack of logic, and you sort of like just look at it as like an emotional outburst, or if someone's misbehaving, try to like look at it from their side, like why are they doing that? Okay, what are they upset about? And you'll diffuse things pretty quickly. I think people just want to be heard and understood. And if you empathize with their perspective and you really hear them and understand what they're saying, they're gonna feel like, oh, this dude's like actually listening to me, like he's not a dick. And then you actually have the other day, dude, I got into a little car crash. Not my fault. Like my brother was driving
It's New
in a
Jersey. I'm sure
New
you didn't.
Jersey, bro.
It's New
Yeah.
Jersey, bro. I'm sure you
This
didn't. It's like an annual thing.
it really happens often, bro. I was in a
Yeah.
parking lot. My brother was driving the one-way lane, and this dude behind me, like my brother was just about to turn right into a spot, and this dude behind us, like, just drove by, like tried to drive right around us real quick, like into the direction we were turning. So we hit bumpers. Our fender got hit a little bit, and the dude came out like screaming, yelling, was really mad. It was his fault, by the way. And
Sure.
eventually, like at the end of
Always
it,
is.
like we just calmed down and we just talk. We're talking about like the wedding hall we were at. He was telling me about what he does for work, and like we were just like laughing and joking. He was a Giants fan, and we were cool. At the end, it was just cool. Like went from like really, you just gotta be calm when someone's super emotional. Recognize they're being emotional and like have some slack, and eventually they'll calm down.
That's
So
awesome. That's good advice. I could
that's
probably
the
use
way,
it
bro.
myself in my life.
Nah, dude, I hear that.
I'd have a better reputation in the hospitals if I just took that advice. I mean, look, sometimes I do. I will say this in my professional life, I see a
Yeah,
patient get hurt,
yeah.
and it's like a parent with their kid getting hurt. I
Oh, I
respond before
believe
I
that, dude.
react.
I believe that.
I
I
mean, I
believe
react
that.
before I respond, and like you flip your lid, and then
Yeah,
the nurses to get out of trouble will say, "Oh, he yelled at me," and I'm like, "You almost fucking killed this patient,"
yeah,
And then it
yeah.
just becomes this thing, and like
Mm-hmm.
I have to take that advice so much more seriously than honestly I should. If I can incorporate
Well,
that advice,
the other
it'd
thing
make my
about
life 10 times
emotions,
easier.
the other thing about it's because you care, bro. It's because you
Yeah,
care. That's why people are emotional. It's because it's energy in motion. It's like there's feelings behind there. It's because you care about something. So
yeah,
it's super human and normal to do that for sure, in my opinion. But
yeah.
um,
It's tough.
so
It's just like I said, it would make my life a lot easier though. if I
Yeah.
would respond instead of reacting sometimes. But what can you do?
Dude, I hear that.
Um, just the last two questions. I know we've been on for a while, man, and I love you for spending the time with
I'm
me,
having
man. I do
fun, bro.
appreciate it.
No problem.
You
I'm
got a
having fun.
girlfriend who's probably like upset at you right now, like, why are you gonna get off the fucking phone?
No, she's
But I
literally
know
playing
she's
Evony.
awesome. I know, like I
Yeah.
said, I met her. She's awesome. I'm being
Yeah.
facetious. Um, two last questions.
Sure.
What advice, if you have a guy trying to get together and make their rankings better,
Mm,
if you could give him, if you could point him in a direction that helps a team do better in Battlefield, in terms of a tip or a trick or a drill or something they change in their alliance,
sure.
what would it be?
Dude, consolidate. Like consolidate your power and interested players into one alliance. Because the thing is, like, you can't really
That's good
make
advice.
people coin and care. You can't change people's person. You really need to consolidate the interested people who are interested in the game into one place and maybe even recruit if you can. And when you have this like group of people that cares and are actually interested, then bring in communication. That's the biggest thing is actually communicating with your team on the calls. If you're not having a Battlefield call, definitely start a Battlefield call. You'll get closer to your teammates, you'll get more into the game. But first things first is squash the server drama, really get the interested people in there. Yes, 3 months ago, this guy stole your sub, but you can get over it to have a better gaming experience and everything. I think that's absolutely for new
Huge
servers,
advice.
it's the
Yeah,
biggest thing.
that's huge advice. It's funny. That was the turning point in our server. We had two rival alliances,
Hmm.
kind of splitting the bigs in half.
Hmm.
And the other alliance was a little bit dying on the vine. They had a few people quit. And I had two guys on my alliance, which are just, I mean, honestly, I love that they're with me now. But
Uh-huh.
man, for arguing with them and the shit talking, oh,
Oh,
like, dude,
dude.
one's like an ex-con, great guy, love him, teammate. He's an
Yeah.
ex-con, and at one point when we were like bullshitting when our server was like 2 months old, the guy hated me so much. We were talking so much shit. He's like, "What hospital are you at? I'm gonna meet you there. I'm gonna kick the shit out of you." The guy's like an ex-con,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm 6'2", right? I'm 250. I can
You
bench
could
my
take,
weight at least, right? So I know I'm
yeah.
not that out of shape. And I'm sitting there like, this guy's gonna have a surprise, and I find out he's 6'5".
Dude, I was
You
surprised how
know,
tall you were, bro. When I first met you, I was like, you're really freaking tall, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird too because both my parents are pretty short, but I don't know,
I see.
maybe I attribute it to the 80s when we were like chemicals everywhere and shit.
There you
They're
go.
feeding like growth hormone. I'm sure I'm probably like,
You were an
have like a fucking
experiment.
renal tumor growing in me somewhere right now, but it's all the chemicals. But for now, it worked out to being taller.
Yeah,
Last question:
sure.
would you consider, now that you don't have to spend all that time, going over the game,
Hmm.
would you consider starting a podcast?
Yeah, definitely would. Yeah.
I
If
would
if it's
love for
dude,
you to set up a podcast. You have the perfect temperament, the perfect personality with it. I'd tune in every fucking time I could.
oh man.
I'd love listen. Like I'd have that shit playing. My kids would probably be crying about not listening to music. I'd be like, "Shut up! I'm listening to fucking Evony. Listen to Sing." I mean, and honestly, you have the platform across. Everybody respects you across all continents. I think honestly, right? It's weird. I look at other gaming communities,
Hmm.
and they all have these epicenters. Like they have these guys who are known. Like if you look at like the different guys who are known in Call of Duty or what's the Fortnite, like there's known players who make
Hmm.
millions, by the way,
Hmm.
and they're like this epicenter of the community revolves around these guys because they're kind of like they have the good temperament, but they have the knowledge and the skill.
Hmm.
Evony
Yeah.
has none of that. Like I was so stunned to see when I got here, like there's you,
Hmm.
and then I like listened to other streamers or people who call themselves YouTubers. One rhymes with Shmi K, and I'd listen to the first fucking three like things on YouTube, and I'm a guy who doesn't have a lot of time to listen, right? So
Sure.
if you got to get a lot out of that if you're going to waste time and listening to something. And I'm like, listen to the first three. I'm like, I learned fucking nothing. It's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
knitting circle. The guy doesn't talk about the game. He's like bullshitting. Oh, this and that and this person, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like I was like,
Yeah.
there's nobody out there like counseling and teaching people and tips and tricks, and it blew my mind that Ebony is that fragmented right now that it doesn't feel like there's an epicenter.
Yeah.
And then when you left, people are all like despondent. They're like, dude, that was our guy. That was our
Oh
what we
man.
aspired to be like. And I got to tell you, if I can encourage you, and I can tell you, I'd be a loyal listener.
Oh man.
And I would encourage everybody who's watching this video, get on a Singh's channel and start pumping his fucking videos full of comments. Tell him to start a fucking podcast, and you'd listen.
Oh
Get him
dude.
interested, and maybe we can get him to do it, because I'd love for you to do that, dude. If you
I,
did, I'd be
I
such a huge fan of that.
Man, if it's like the conversation we had just now, that this was just fun for me. I love doing this. This was a blast. So
Dude,
I would
thanks, man. I
definitely.
really do appreciate you taking. And I feel so bad. It's 11 o'clock at
No,
night,
you're
and
good. You're good.
but dude, but this is the fun shit. This was one of the best parts about being RSP, is
Yeah.
talking this stuff out, talking the game out. I mean, going more deeper dives on mechanics. And I got to tell you right now, I've had a few talks with Derek
Mm-hmm.
on Discord, and I got to tell you, it's so funny because I tell people, like, me and him we're like the odd couple.
Mm-hmm.
Like my last video, I have this meme. I'm actually going to see if I can find it here. I'm going to show it to you.
Sure.
My
Yeah.
last video, I had a meme where I did. Where is it? Albums, builds. This one. Here, look at this.
Let's see. Close
You see the
enough.
screen? So the guy on the right, that's
Yeah.
me. Okay, that's probably roughly the right build. I don't have the beard. They don't let you wear that in the OR. But the beer, definitely me. The outdoor lake, let's drink and get on a fucking boat. Like, that's me. Okay.
Right.
And that's Derek on the left. Like, I'm like, dude, I wonder if like, my way of thinking and innovating in this game is like, let me fuck around with this and start hitting shit. And I'll be like,
Yeah.
let me jack this up. Let me jack this down. Oh, that was
Yeah.
totally not what I expected. Let me go back to the drawing board with that. Derek's in there, like, literally calculating the cofactors on counter damage down to the nearest, like, third to thousand, 10,000 decimal. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, so that's him on the left and that's me on the right. And it's
Dude.
fun. I think it's so much fun because sometimes he helps me see the trees and I help him see the forest.
Oh, there you
When we have
go.
those conversations. So that's
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, there's your first guest for your podcast.
Okay, sick, man. Say, I'd love
Derek,
to
right
talk to
there,
him,
man.
dude. Dude, that'd be
I got to tell you, he's a really bright guy. And the
man.
thing is this is a thing that I hated and why I left the continent discords.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, I would put shit up and then, like, C1, C2 would come down my throat.
Yep.
And Derek would get the same bashing. Like, people were just treating him with total disrespect. And I'm sitting there like, this is terrible. Like, this guy has the keys to the kingdom, has eyes into the black box that we all dreamt we could see, and you're treating him like shit. Like, good luck getting him to fucking teach you anything.
Yeah, dude's
You know?
trying. I learned a lot from Derek, man. Like I found his content pretty useful. It's at least like seeing like the way people are thinking about the game and the realizations they're coming to is an
Yeah,
interesting thing enough to see. And I think he's figured a lot of stuff out, man. I learned from him for sure.
I
But
do. I agree.
yeah,
Definitely agree.
yeah.
Anyway, on that note, dude, I can't thank you enough. I really do appreciate the time. We'll be in touch. Hope let's
Cheers,
get
man.
together at something soon. I'll talk to you off base about that. Like, if you're, especially if your girl's out in town still, bring her
Yeah.
out to an event, dude. We'll definitely. I still got some stuff. I actually am going out of town for a week,
Uh-huh.
in a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna miss. They have World Championship sumo wrestling.
No way. I'm down for
Yeah,
that.
dude. I'll take care. I was
I
like,
love
I
you.
can't
Thank
use the
you.
tickets. You take them, man. I'm pissed. I want to go. I
Dude,
want
that
to see
sounds like
sumo, dude.
fun.
That sounds like an event that you want to get plastered at and start cheering on the little guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Like, sumo wrestling would be so much more fun if they
Yeah.
actually didn't have weight classes. Like, can you
Oh,
imagine, like, a
dude.
500-pound dude taking on, like, a 40-pound midget? Like, I'd pay to see that. There's not an amount of money I wouldn't pay to see that sumo match.
Oh my
It'd be
God, dude.
short, but I'm like, holy shit! Like, I'd be plastered and having the best time of my life at that goddamn thing.
No, I
But
bet, man. Yeah.
anyway, we'll talk more about that offline.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks again, dude. I appreciate you, man.
For sure, man. I had a lot of fun, bro. I'll
All right.
talk to you later, man.
See you, brother. I'll talk to you.
See you, dude.